Hey, so this is the Reactor, track 2 of the Doom mixtape. So I had originally recorded this one first, and I didn't know if I was going to do it, but I think there's some interesting things going on in this map, and I think it's worth showing anyway. It's also by Ika and it's also from Requiem, and there's some interesting, more of his like engine tricks and stuff going on in this map. And when I played through this WAD for the first time, this was like definitely my standout map just because it had this like very strong theme to it. The beginning starts off a little bit like, I won't say weak. Looking back through it again, I was having some mouse problems here, by the way. But looking back through it again, I don't know. I think it's fine. It's pretty interesting. There's enough stuff going on. The whole escaping the prison thing at the beginning is like whatever, but it's kind of neat. There's a tendency to look back at these old maps if you play like more recent Doom WADs and say like, oh wow, this is really under-detailed and things like that. But I think it's like mostly fine. Like there's always going to be some level of garishness in Doom, especially when you kind of up the resolution. Even a lot of things that people think of as being really detailed, I think of as being really garish. So, I don't know, like, you know, and it's obviously limited by the fact that it was in the, what is called the vanilla Doom engine, you know, which is just the standard Doom engine before they kind of, before the source code was made available and before they got rid of a lot of the limits in the engine. So that probably should be accounted for as well. But yeah, this area you're kind of circling around the central area of the reactor, which is really the heart of the map. This is just kind of an extended intro. There's some annoying things going on in this map, but it's also tremendously creative. Like, all the areas have their own character. Like, this room has its own kind of theme to it. There's that light in the center that's blinking, and I don't know, it just kind of suggests something, maybe narrative-wise, in a very subtle way. But I think that's the thing that I like about Ika Karanen's maps, is they kind of often carry a kind of story to them. And I feel like a lot of recent maps, you know, will have interesting gameplay, but like the settings will just be these kind of like abstract playgrounds of mishmash of different things, and there's a lot of fixation on just like little details and things like that, but like less fixation on the bigger picture, or, you know, kind of creating an area with a theme or a story to it. And I think that's one of the things that he really does really well. One of the smartest Doom level designers, and just seems like a really smart guy. But yeah, let me read something, because the Doom World Megawad Club. Oh, here's a secret. It's not officially a secret, but you can run over the top there. It's not too hard to get. And then you can come out the other side of the prison. I tried to get on this windowsill, seeing if there's anything there, but there's nothing there, so I did no clip back up because I was lazy. So I'm going to read something from the Doom World Megawad Club that, like I said in the previous video, recently played through Requiem. And this was from Adam Windsor, who contributed, I think, 5 or 6 maps to Requiem. A lot of which were from a previous project and smaller, not necessarily as well regarded, but he has some good maps too. He says, when Requiem was in development, Doom appeared to be sliding into oblivion thanks to the rise of Quake and True 3D. The name itself gives way to that this project was conceptualized as the last great megawad for Doom. I am pleased by how wrong that concept was. It was wrong even at the time, really. Strain was also under development then. That was another big megawatt at the time. It had a lot of like extra features and stuff going on in it. But for the community to still be going nearly 20 years later, none of us expected that. still, that sense that the age of Doom was over was definitely a thing. As we worked on Requiem, it was both the inspiration for the project to happen and the single biggest barrier to it being completed. So yeah, a lot of this Doom community that was established, kind of with the Memento Mori series, which are also really well regarded megawads that are both from 1996, kind of ended with Requiem, and you can see a lot of people kind of pushing the limits of what they thought were possible in the engine. Here's the central lift area, which is what really impressed me when I first played this WAD back in, I think it was in college. I remember saying like, wow, I just had this like very visceral reaction, and it was one of the things that really kept me keep coming back to playing Doom mods and trying to see if there was other interesting stuff going on. In addition to like some levels that I remember from Alien Vendetta and some other megawads that I played way back, around the time they came out, I guess. But yeah, and I think the reason why is it's just this central like mine area with this lift just has a really distinctive theme that is stuck to the whole time, and it's very linear, but it has a kind of an interesting progression, nevertheless. And I don't know, like I was reading the comments in the Megawad Club, and they were saying stuff that like, it's kind of under detailed, and lots of use of ash wall, which is that gray wall texture. But I think it works. Like I think it's more important. I don't know. Maybe it's just I feel like there's a certain kind of standard for Doom levels now that a lot of people feel the need to live up to, where I don't necessarily think that things that people think look attractive like really look particularly good to me at all. They just kind of look like noise. Whereas something like this, like it's clear what everything is, and there's some still like lighting effects and some interesting detailing. There's this like toxic sludge going through this level. That it's not really under detailed. I'd say it's effective, but it's just not like the same level of kind of texture. I don't know, confetti, texture like variation or whatever that it is like expected now. So I don't know, but I really like the look and feel of this. It's really strong. It feels like it could really work on its own as like a piece, like a single level. And I think that's true of most of like Ikakuranen's maps that I played. They really feel like they have their own concepts and ideas going on in them, and you can really feel the hand of a designer who's just trying to make something interesting within Doom, beyond just kind of exploring the combat and stuff. And I guess it makes sense that he went on to do, bigger things. I won't say better because I love Doom levels, but we'll say bigger things just because, you can see that kind of desire in this. And that's what I like about some of the old Doom megawads, like the Memento Mori series, is that there are people, like, you could make a Doom wad or a Doom level and get noticed, and, it could kind of springboard you into the industry. You could get hired to work on like a lot of different projects, and so it was a really big deal, and it was a really kind of big chance to prove yourself and do whatever you wanted to within this kind of engine. And there wasn't a lot of like great like 3D level editor kind of stuff to really mess around with, but Doom kind of made it easier. I mean, the tools that people were using at the time were not like the tools that we have now. Like Doom Builder is just much better than a lot of the tools that people used at the time. I think like DEU and some of the other editors, but still, like, you had this power to make something, and you could potentially be noticed. So that was like a thing, and I don't know. I think that's one of the things that maybe died a little bit with Requiem, is that whole era of like initial just curiosity and experimentation with Doom. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, Doom modding has kind of gone through many different phases, and it's interesting to look at. Just like I think it's interesting to look at any kind of modding or fan community online and kind of trace the history and how it progressed over time. Partly because, I don't know, I grew up being part of those kinds of communities to some extent. Like I did Wolfenstein 3D levels when I was young, like, 12, 14, 15. And then I was at on OC Remix, which was like a video game music community, and a lot of stuff happened within 3 years. Some good and some bad, we'll say. And I don't know, a lot of things kind of got more interesting over time, but then a lot of things were lost in translation. I feel like that often happens, and I really like the kind of the initial curiosity from something where you don't feel like you are like going to completely be a professional. Like you're just trying to play with what is there and do the best that you can with it and make something interesting out of it. And I guess there was some stuff at stake here because people, knew that they could get hired if they made something really interesting. But the sense of like curiosity and the sense of like what a Doom level was a lot less like maybe restrictive than it is for a lot of people now, and that's sad. I don't know. I feel like that happened on OC Remix too, where people kind of had this, like there was increasingly these standards that were kind of made to people, to filter through everything that was being made, but the standards kind of pushed out some kinds of creativity, maybe, or some kinds of like raw exploration of ideas that might have formed there otherwise. But maybe it's just also the dynamics of the community, like who's kind of coming into them and stuff. But I feel like a lot of these online communities that I've seen have kind of followed similar paths. The Doom one I really think has been more resilient, and there's still really interesting stuff being made, which is why I think it's continually interesting to look at. Also, I don't know, like Doom is tremendously interesting just as an engine, because of it not being true 3D, but you can still do a tremendous amount with it. You can make these really complicated and interesting and atmospheric, I'm going to use that word again, places, but it doesn't have the kind of, fussy workload or something that it does if you're working with like a true 3D engine. Even with stuff like Unity, like editing a Doom level is just much more simple now. You can do it so much more quickly, and I really think that that's a thing that's worth really exploring. I wish that JP LeBreton did his like. JP LeBreton is like a level designer. He's a friend of mine, and he recently had a video where he interviewed John Romero about episode 1 of Doom, and it's really interesting. I definitely am happy that JP, more than anyone else, talked to him, because JP is like works as a level designer in the industry. He worked on BioShock 1 and 2 and worked at Double Fine for a while. Now he's working on his own project. The engine is called Playski. Anyway, oh yeah, I'm going back up I like the way that the Reactor works going back up. But what was it? Oh, he was going to make a thing called the Doom Engine Creators Kit, which was like for people who wanted to make kind of like more RPG or walking simulator, quote unquote, kind of exploration stuff with the Doom engine, and not feel like limited by the restrictions of it being like an action game. And because like the ZDoom engine, which I'm playing ZDoom, is open source and so you can release something commercial with it, but there's weird stuff with the licensing. So we got kind of partially through that, and maybe he'll finish it one of these days, but I really think it would be an interesting thing to look at, because then you could really go back and look at all these levels and apply them to a setting, much more easily apply them to a setting kind of outside of a Doom level, and have a new sort of design paradigm or something for them, rather than just making a Doom level. Which, I mean, I love playing Doom. I played this really badly here, but this map can be kind of hard from a pistol start, because there is a double-barreled shotgun, but I don't know where it is. It's in a secret, and I didn't find the secret. So you kind of restricted to using Berserk and just single shotgun shells, which can be frustrating. And I should probably take the safer path and use the shotgun shells, but I'm trying to entertain myself by punching things, which is really hurting me. But I get through this section like pretty amazingly, given how low health I have right now. But yeah, I would like to see people who are like indie developers or something looking at Doom mods and using them kind of as blueprints or paradigms for their own ideas, because I often feel like there's a lot of indie projects that have really interesting kind of tech or just interesting ideas coming into them, like high conceptually, and then just the nuts and bolts design, the kind of things that you interact with just aren't that interesting, or they're not really fleshed out. And that's been often been a trend of indie stuff, which is why I think just the sheer amount of content in Doom levels, you have to kind of respect people who are fans who really have nothing to gain. Maybe they did it in this era, but now there really is nothing to gain from making a Doom mod, and people are just doing it because they want to do it, and I think that's great. Oh god, this area is kind of scary. I get through it, but just barely. But yeah, there's just that community that exists. It's people who are doing it for the fun of it, and they like the game, and they there's all these kind of preset parameters of play that are really interesting in Doom that you can play around with, and you don't have to kind of worry about programming kind of the gameplay aspect of it or whatever. If you do some things, you kind of make an interesting or exciting experience, because Doom is just such a really solid action game. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's exciting to me to look back at this stuff. And I don't know, every once in a while I'll come back and I'll see something like that WOD that I really like called ALT, or I played through Doom 2 the way it did, and there's just kind of a new guard of people who are interested in kind of exploring the techniques and ideas of the original maps, and sometimes that can be cool, and sometimes it's can be kind of maybe slightly reductive, but there are some really interesting maps in that. And I like that the focus is going back on these kind of core elements of what makes the game interesting, and trying to make it kind of a compelling experience over just trying to make these big detailed stuff that kind of is supposed to live up to the AAA mindset, or the AAA pipeline of detail, which is, I really think, often a thing that happens is that people feel like they need to imitate the level of detail in things like AAA games just because they can, because that's what people are used to seeing now, and it can be harder to come back and kind of look at these things for what they are and appreciate them, and understand that they don't really need more stuff going on in them. Oh yeah, I don't know if this is a bug in Z-Doom or if this is just the level is not tested. I've heard that this set was not really well tested. There's an area earlier that a chain gunner popped out of, that if you try to ride that lift up, you just get stuck. It's really crappy. Oh yeah, Baron from Hell, which I'm not even going to try and fuck with here. I'm just going to take him out with 12 shotgun shots, or however many it takes. But yeah, and more than ever, I feel like you see people coming back to Doom. John Romero did that video which I thought was really interesting. Way more. Definitely watch it over my own Doom Episode 1 design videos. Just like pretty much covers the same territory, except, you know, it's the actual person who made it. And, you know, he's a really smart guy, and maybe you're not necessarily aware of that when you play these things, how much thought goes into them. And Matthias' work, going back and playing on his Twitch channel, playing some stuff from Memento Mori, and maybe he'll play stuff from Requiem at this point. It's just, it's a interesting time to explore this, and I think there's more than ever some curiosity about coming back to this kind of game. So here, like, this whole area is toxic, and I need to like kill these guys really fast so I can blow up the reactor at the end, which is like some kind of icon of sin contraption. And the lift takes so long that like you don't really get that much time, and it's like really cramped close quarters, and I don't have a double-barreled shotgun, so I just kind of like run into it, try to get like the style punch killing the guy, and then have a very metal victory of 7%. So, yep. It doesn't look like it killed everyone, but yeah, that was the Reactor. I think it's a very interesting map, and kind of worth looking back on. I feel like his maps are definitely something that a lot of people who are making Doom maps now can learn something from, in the way that they kind of explore concepts and ideas over just like detail and nuts and bolts kind of combat stuff. So yeah, anyway, I will see you guys later.